And starting to the top right, we have a very solid Zerg versus Protoss player. Starting for Team AZUBU, it is
AZUBU Ragnarok.
14 maps played against Protoss in Heart of the Swarm offline. He won 8 of them against opponents like Swagger, Sickness, Avenge, and Puzzle. Pretty solid player. He's going up against the Protoss today. The starting player for Team Seoul.
HwangSin.
And as mentioned already in the pre-game talk, HwangSin, a player that was not really successful in the past against Korean Protoss. This is kind of his Achilles heel. If you look at his stats in general, he has 13 maps played and he won 9 of them. That leaves him with a 70% win ratio, nearly or close to at least. But then you go down that match list and you realize that against Korean Zerg players, he didn't win a single game. He lost against Life, he lost against Sleep, he lost against Yu-Gi-Oh! All his wins were against foreign players. Most of them at DreamHack Bucharest in 2013. That was back in September when he defeated Bly, Vicious, and Reyna without losing a single map. He has another 2-0 victory against Penguin that was actually in spring at the MLG Pro Circuit. So against Koreans, absolutely not as successful as he is against foreigners. Now he can prove against Ragnarok that foreign and Protoss players are not the only Protoss players that he can beat. But of course Ragnarok has other plans.
Yeah. Now Ragnarok can actually be a little bit annoyed about what build he's had to choose now that he comes over here and sees the Nexus first. He went pool first, expecting a Forge, which is basically what he had to do. So what HwangSin has already accomplished here is just forcing the pool first by sending his probe, because if he tries to go hatch first and there is a Forge by chance, then he's going to get cannoned, so he doesn't want that. So now he's not going to be able to get anything done with his Zerglings just because Whirlwind is so big. So when you talk about the way this game opens, a slight lead for HwangSin just because he gets away with the greedier Nexus here.
As a Zerg player, what you basically have to do is not watch SOS play, because if you do, then you will just wake up screaming in the middle of the night.
Don't ever watch
that. You expect cannons under your bed, next to your bed, like everywhere in the wardrobe, and it's like, oh, I heard a cannon beam. There's a cannon right there. So SOS games, I mean, it's really funny. Like we saw the final there at WCS at the season finals where Jaden was playing against them, and it was kind of incredible to just see how SOS always gets away with his cannons, and this guy is just so good with it. People talk about it being cheese, but if you do it this constantly against Zergs and you get away with it, then there's a huge proportion of skill also.
Yeah, it's definitely not cheesy.
Well, it's a little bit cheesy.
Well, it's
a little bit.
It certainly can be cheesy. But he's practiced it well. He's mastered it. And it's an aggressive way to deny Zerg. I mean, back in the day, we used to have players put 2 pylons at the bottom ramp, put a cannon there. People said that was cheesy, and things have evolved quite a bit since then. Probe does go down, but not before seeing the third hatchery that goes up before the 4-minute mark, just slightly. So a pretty quick third hatchery, the normal response to seeing a Nexus first and very delayed gateway.
I mean, a couple of old schoolers there might remember the games where Terran players were able to actually block the ramp at the bottom with
Double
2
bunker,
bunkers, and then we had like a map change, and ST was playing, and suddenly there was a different map version.
Against Björn, man, I remember that.
Exactly, against
Do you guys
Björn.
remember Björn?
So, Ghost King.
Yeah, Ghost King.
Back then against Ghost King, and Ghost King suddenly realized that the map version that was being played allowed him to double bunker that ramp, and he got basically a free win.
There was one game also where it was Björn as well. He did a 2x proxy, and the Zerg player just decided to try to make a 1-base play. There's a Stargate wall, and he killed the rocks at the bottom of the ramp, and then bunker walled it, and made a big bunker wall at the bottom, and contained the Zerg and won the game.
Yeah, we had a couple of really crazy games back in the days. But what we have here now in the opening is a Stargate as the tech choice for HwangSin. So right now he's in a position where he can use that Oracle, that improved Oracle. Blizzard said, you know what, it's not fast enough for us. We wanted to do even more damage.
Souped up that Oracle, put a new engine in it, and everything.
It's basically a tuned Oracle.
Yeah, it's got the...
It's pimp my
Oracle.
Pimp my Oracle, exactly. That's what we saw there. Has a couple of bumper stickers and a new suspension as well.
So you can accelerate while you accelerate.
And the most amazing thing about the pimped Oracle is actually that we now have a new music system in there as well. Those pilots are so happy, they're bouncing the entire day.
Yeah,
it's actually great. And that causes them to be a little bit faster, a little bit more reactive. The acceleration time has been increased, the speed as well.
Also, there's an Xbox in the back.
Exactly, there's an Xbox in the back as well, and I mean,
it's also modded so you can play StarCraft on the Xbox as well. That's how it's done.
So it's pretty awesome.
He's actually following this up with a Void Ray, and if you have the Oracle do some harassment and draw the Queens away, maybe the Void Ray can do some follow-up damage. He's going to go for that Overlord right away. And the Void Ray follow-up will also be good defensively to hold this third base, so I like this opening by HwangSin quite a bit. He's going to get one drone.
Basically, if you go for an Oregon for a Void Ray, this is like someone who loves cars buying himself a Ferrari and then a Hummer.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to have both.
Yeah. It's just because he's getting this nice new house and he wants to park both outside, so no roaches are going to trespass on him. And as you can see, he's queuing up the Void Rays, and this is not for a timing. This is just a defensive measure. Finds the Overlord, will use that prismatic alignment to make quick work of him. And the Oracle continues to deny creep as well, actually on the bottom of the map. And when the Void Ray comes, it's going to be even easier to do that.
Yeah, and apparently HwangSin was talking to Alicia quite a lot, because he's not only going for one Void Ray, he's already cranking out the second here. Yeah. And let's see how Ragnarok reacts to this. Void Rays have been causing a lot of trouble for Zerg players in huge numbers, but already the Hydra Den coming up here for Ragnarok, and he's starting with a +1 attack upgrade.
You know, he's also taking a fourth base a little bit hidden to the south. This is not going to be something that HwangSin expects. If he knew, he would actually just be able to kill it with his Void Rays and the Oracle. There's no way to stop it. There's no creep in that direction. But if he gets away with it, then HwangSin might be, you know, basically under false pretenses, thinking he's massively ahead with this early third base that he got for free, but it's actually just not true.
We also have a Spire coming down now for Ragnarok, which was not scouted yet, and if you get a fourth base and you get the gas there, you could actually start to counter those Void Rays with a couple of Mutalisks.
Yeah, Mutalisks would be a great choice, and I think that's probably what we're going to see.
Just definitely, the problem is really the numbers. You need a lot of the Mutalisks to actually deal with the Void Rays, but it's just the better option compared to the Corruptors. It's just being taken apart. So if he gets that fourth up and the gas income, then he might be able to just crank out the numbers that he needs.
And a few Hydras here are actually going to make it so the Oracle can't stick around. He still has no idea about the fourth. He's not even made an attempt to scout it, and the Hydras actually could catch this Oracle. He does find it, and the improved speed just barely enough. He's got 24 hit points left. I don't even think he microed that. It just ran away on its own AI a little bit too fast. But this is the crucial moment. Can he actually do damage with these Hydras? 2 additional cannons being added. They will finish in time. I don't know about the drones. I don't think they want to be here. They're actually going to go down and man into that fourth base.
They're going to go down, and he's getting the gas right now. If you are a former Warcraft 3 player, then you remember Huntresses and how annoying they were, especially in a 2v2 when an undead player granted the Unholy Aura to them. Oracles right now, probably on the same level and exactly the same speed, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, double forces here to actually lock the Zerglings inside so they can actually take some extra cannon fire. Photon Overcharge here as well. The Oracle, nowhere to be seen, could actually be somewhat useful in the defense against the Zerglings here. Another force field, again, making sure he traps the Zerglings in, but the wall is not so tight. Now he pushes it back, and HwangSin stomps this down.
The Void Rays are there to the rescue, but now come the Mutalisks into play, and this is exactly what we were talking about earlier. 13 already at the time, and the Zerg player is currently on 8 gas, and that will help him quite a lot to even build additional ones. In addition to that, Ragnarok immediately throws down an Infestation Pit that allows him to go into Hive, and this could get very, very nasty. The Mutalisks have been spotted, but if they get into the main base, for example, there's not a whole lot to defend against this. There's only one Stargate, gonna take quite some time to get Phoenixes out there, so HwangSin has to be really careful now.
Yeah, he saw this, but I mean, he doesn't have a ton of cannons up in the right spot. You know, there are a few aggressive against Hydras at the front.
There are 3 Stalkers, that's all that he has.
That's all he's got. I mean, you have 4 Void Rays, but they're a bit too slow. This Colossus is way out of position. Where are the force fields? Not where they need to be, that's for sure. There's the good one, but it's way too late. Damage has already been done.
Ragnarok is
in the main.
He's moving in the main. He's going in at the third base. He's taking out so many units already, focusing that Nexus. This one Void Ray is definitely out of position, and he could even fight this if he wanted to. He snipes the Void Ray and then moves back. He is in a pretty decent spot, taking a 5th base now as well. The Mutalisks just bouncing between the bases, and they could turn around and take down the Void Rays if he wanted to.
Yeah, he really could. He's playing it a little bit extra safe, but he's still done the damage he wants. The Hive, like you said, is on the way, and that's great for him. He's got the 4th base up uncontested, 5th base even nearly complete. Adding more Hydras, getting the upgrades for his Zerglings and the Mutalisks as well. And, you know, he still hasn't made cannons here. He doesn't have the resources. He's trying to commit to getting Phoenixes, more Stalkers out, so the cannons are a low priority, but the Mutalisks definitely happy about that.
And the problem for him being is that Ragnarok is just not sticking with that tech. The Hive, as you mentioned, is underway, the 5th base coming in, so he can tech switch anytime he wants, and that is very dangerous now for HwangSin, especially since he's stuck on 3 bases. So in a sheer numbers game, Ragnarok already having a slight advantage. A pretty big advantage, actually. He's also 70 supply up.
Yeah, 70 supply up here, and the Zerglings, on the other hand, not getting a whole lot done. He has 41 of them, but they're just basically the buffering zone here, trying to protect the Hydra so the Hydras can do the real damage to the back. If there were not a transition here out of this tech, I would be concerned, but since he has those Vipers on the way, he has the Hive tech, he's looking very much totally in control of this game. There's never going to be a 4th base for HwangSin in this game. It's not going to happen. He's not going to let it happen.
Yeah, and you know, with only a few Phoenixes in the game, at any point, Ragnarok could just go for additional Mutalisks and throw that out there and try to overwhelm his opponent. He's using the ones that he has in the main base and is just trying to clean up even more Harvesters. The Phoenixes, of course, already on their way back now that they realize that, but more drones are going down, and at some point those Phoenixes will be utterly useless since we don't see Ragnarok committing to Mutalisks anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Phoenixes are not very useful against Vipers because the Vipers already get their grabs, and you try to run the Phoenixes forward, they're going to get killed by Hydras and get bungled and things like that. I'm just a little bit disappointed we did not see cannons in the main base. You know, that's actually something he definitely should have considered doing because the Mutalisks are still out there. He's now down to 58 probes for 3 bases, not ideal, and it's definitely going to be even worse when he wants to take a 4th base, if that even happens, because that's basically just only a dream. With all the units that he has out on the map right now, Ragnarok can deny any 4th base that he scouts.
Ragnarok is now on 200 supply and just building up that bank that will allow him to take switch anytime he wants and reinforce immediately. At 31 lava, he's actually sitting pretty, and now he's moving in again with this many Hydrals. He's going for the Yanks and all those Colossi. I need to be careful, and here we go. The first Yank with the Viper, and immediately it's gone. The same fate is also, I mean, the Void Ray dies here immediately, and this is not looking good for HwangSin right now.
I look at the upgrades. He's about to have +2 for his Hydras. +2 just started for HwangSin. Very late on that. There goes another Void Ray. He does target down a Viper, but it's already done his job. Blinding Cloud as well on the Stalkers, and how can he fight this? He just can't. The Phoenix is being taken out here, he just kites back against those units, and DT's a little bit helpful here once that Overseer goes down, but actually the DT's all died.
The DT's died, and now the snipe on the Nexus moving in. There's only one Colossus, he doesn't even care about it. He snipes the Nexus, 2 base mining now for HwangSin, and at the same time Ragnarok moving back for now, and 24 Mutalisks, exactly what I mentioned earlier. The switch into Mutalisks, now that the Phoenixes are gone with only 1 Stargate, and immediately change bam Mutalisk, and this is going to be the final blow. There is no question about it. HwangSin will not be able to defend against those Mutalisks without having any significant anti-air.
Definitely not. I mean, those Zealots right there, the Sentries, definitely not going to be useful. They're going to be useful at blocking each other in. That's about it. DT's spot the... I mean, he might actually just type GG after he spots those with his DTs because there is no answer here. Doesn't have enough money. He doesn't have the gateway production. He yanks a Colossus unnecessarily, but who cares? He's making style points here. He can do whatever he wants. He's killing every last probe, and that is going to be all she wrote for game number 1.
The one Zealot there that's playing bouncer at the wall and doesn't leave anyone in. That is the most exclusive club that I've ever seen. Not even the fellow Zealots are being passed. So in this situation, there's nothing he can do anymore.
It's called Club GG, man.
Yeah, Club GG. That's exactly what we're seeing here right now. Another snipe in the main base. There comes the Yank. Bye-bye Colossus. Only a few Stalkers left. And those bad boys are not able to deal with the Mutalisks. He snipes also the Dark Shrine. Everything just taken out, and there's the GG.
Club GG would not